Good afternoon and welcome to yet another TUG Connects 365 webinar today. I'm Gloria Nelson, your host with TUG, and as you settle in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, allow me to give a brief introduction for TUG, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community of Infor distribution software users. Now, we've all heard that phrase that knowledge is power, and I can say with confidence that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up tomorrow with a bit more of both. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events facilitate the timely exchange of ideas and information to help you be smarter and with more confidence. Now, that's a powerful combination. And a heads up, the TUG Connects 2021 virtual conference registration is live. So after today's webinar, make sure that you head on over and register. If you're currently a member, it also pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, please visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do each and every day. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know that we do have IP permissions. Feel free to capture any screenshots, copy and paste any chat into a note card that will help you to perform better. Also, be prepared to buckle in for about 35 minutes of content, but we will stay until the last question is either answered or our allotted time runs out. Now, before we get started and I turn things over, I would like to ask you to make sure that you pull up your Q&A bubble. That is where you will be typing any questions that you have with regard to clarifying content or any other information you'd like answered. And chat is where I'll be monitoring also and giving you further directions, heads up in terms of the answering to your questions that you might have and anything else that you might have need for. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce brand new sponsor, Bradley Jackson, who is with Cyberscience as the Business Development Manager. He's going to be taking all of our SX.e and CSD users through the reporting and data discovery processes they offer. Brad, it's all yours. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much, Gloria, for that great introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I want to walk through different pieces on how, with CyberQuery, you can improve reporting and data discovery up against the Infor SX.e and CSD systems. For the agenda today, we're going to go through and talk about client requirements. Then we'll move on and show some case studies from actual Infor clients, some of those being SX.e that have used CyberQuery for several years. Next, we'll jump into some content overview, just different items that have been created within the CyberQuery product. After that, we'll jump into a product demonstration so you can actually see CyberQuery working up against actual data. And then, of course, at the end, we'll talk about some next steps and talk about our free test drive that we offer. So it's important to see that we want to prove what we say we can do, and you get to do that for 30 days. So there will be Q&A along the way, probably about the halfway point, and then at the very end too. So please, I encourage you guys to chat with each other, with Gloria, to try to keep this as interactive as possible. So what are the requirements that we've seen from existing SX.e clients so far, as well as CSD? We spoke with some prospects as well as clients, and what we keep hearing is people want to have fast reporting. So what that means is they want to be able to pull that information back quickly. With CyberQuery, we have what's known as a native progress interface. So whereas a lot of you might have access to some of the data via ODBC, we have seen that ODBC connection isn't very efficient. And I've heard stories that people have told me that even connecting to one table, that sometimes it can time out on them. But if they try to connect to multiple tables when they're developing a report, it often just stops on them. So we really feel that that native connection into progress on SX.e has been very valuable for those clients. For CSD, we have something called Query Database. That is the Cyberscience proprietary data marts. So that allows us to pull the data down from REST API, including from the new PostgreSQL that ClearData will be using, so you can have that information to queries fast as well. Full control over all the data. You probably saw the subtitle that says, take control of your data. You know, we really believe that the best way to control your data is to have that data be locally. And in addition to that, we think you also should have access to all of your transactional data. That's a common theme I keep hearing as well, is that people will often have to send data up to the cloud, and they maybe send certain fields, and then next thing you know, there's like, well, we need more fields to get that information to truly analyze it. Well, with CyberQuery, we're giving you access to every single field, every single table within those two applications, so then you can report off of it as quickly as possible. And that includes custom tables as well. Access to other data. So once you have that data local, you're able to then say, I want to connect into other applications that we're utilizing and query that information. Maybe you want to do some corresponding information from the different systems. And whenever possible, this is also real time. With the cloud suite distribution, it may be a little delayed as we're downloading the query databases and updating that. So it's very near real time for that. So power and functionality, CyberQuery can do any report you can think of. I haven't seen once in my 20 years I've been here where there's not a report we can't create. That's financial statements. You can see operational type reporting and so forth. Also, ad hoc analysis, that's the data discovery bit, which we'll go into here in a little bit. Dashboards as well, so you can do the visualization. I'll show you examples with this as we move forward. Automation has to do with scheduling. So can you schedule these reports to be run, or these graphs or dashboards, and then also be distributed too? So you can start kind of setting that, and you can forget it, and the information's there when people need it. And then also the users ask for, they want to receive high value for what they're paying for with flexible pricing, and I'll go through that here in a bit. Who are our customers? Well, here's an example of some of the customers. Here are some of our larger ones that are more well known, but we also work with lots of mid-size and smaller customers as well too. So jumping into some of these case studies, John Madison from Madison Electronic, he has used the product for several years. And Madison Electronic Company is a full-line electrical distributor. They are currently on SX.e. Why did they choose CyberQuery? He told us that it's easy use. He felt that with the training, they could quickly get started and use the product. It's fast, and fast goes with 2 bits here. So it's how fast that information comes back, once again, that native progress connection, and also how fast to develop that content in the first place. Dashboards, he wanted the ability to be able to create dashboards within our tool too. So he liked that it could do the ad hoc reporting, the production reporting, and the dashboards. And of course, Excel integration. How could they go and integrate Excel into these reports that are developed with CyberQuery? So very happy there. Another guy who uses the product, and this is for a different application for UEA, it's Howard Samarin. So that's United Equipment Accessories. And they're actually using the Infor Sightline product. And UEA, they are a manufacturer of highly engineered motion products. And I've listed here for you the Sightline modules that they are currently using. Here are some disclaimers. You can see Howard, a pretty funny guy. He sends us a picture with him eating ice cream, but here's what he has to say about the product. He says, depression has been known to occur when you are forced to go back to standard reports. Also, he says business analysts have reported ear-to-ear smiles by users on CyberQuery. So you can see he's a pretty big fan of ours. And also, he says users will experience tar and feathering when idiots make them go back to the standard reporting. So lots of kind words he's had to say about CyberQuery and our folks. How do they use CyberQuery? Well, they're delivering over 100 reports a day, and it's being sent via email with that scheduling piece I told you about. They're sending a lot of those via Excel and also PDFs. So you can choose different formats on how you distribute that information. They love that the power users, sales, the engineering coder types, they all can get value out of CyberQuery. So the fact that more people can use the product means more value within the organization. Less reports for IT to write. Anything that can take a little bit of load off of IT is a good thing for them. And they've taken the next step and said, okay, well, we're going to also push this information to external stakeholders too. The features that Howard loves, he says he loves that CyberQuery can simplify the ugly data underneath. We all know if we worked with different systems, the database table names, field names often aren't as easy as or clear cut as we hope they would be. Well, CyberQuery gives them the ability to modify that. It's very stable. It's always up and going. So it's just not shutting down on them unexpectedly. I mentioned this earlier, the scheduling module. They love to be able to schedule this. So they come up with certain rules, send it out on an hourly, weekly basis, however they like, and that can be distributed to folks. And once again, fast access to that data. They want to be able to get that information as fast as possible and then share it with the people who need it. He also liked that there's different editors within CyberQuery. So you can go in and do a drag and drop within the report development GUI, or you can also go into the language editor and use it. Benefits to UEA, they are getting more visibility that they've never had before into their ERP data. So that's huge for them. Better knowledge of the structures. Once they start understanding how those structures are within the system, they know where to find that data more easily. Exception reports, and this can be used with QDirector, as I was mentioning our scheduling piece. So they're taking it to the next step and saying, okay, well, all right, we've created our ad hoc operational type reports, dashboards, but let's try to make sure the data is being put in correctly right away. With the real-time or near real-time reporting, you can quickly do that. You can have daily reports that go out and look for when data is missing or when data doesn't fall within certain guidelines, and then send that automatically back to those who entered that data to help train them to enter the data in correctly in the first place. Final thoughts for UEA, drama-free software, it works. Then they also said they couldn't imagine conducting business without CyberQuery. Another example of this is an SX.e client, Vera Barsikoff, Senior Data Analyst with Johnstone Supply. I spoke with her probably about 6 months ago. They've been on the product for about 2 years. And I said, tell me again, why did you go with CyberQuery? And this is what she came up with. She said they're looking for a robust BI platform to grow with their needs for more information. Why did they choose CyberQuery? First thing, native progress connection to database. They had gone through the ODBC driver, had issues as well. It wasn't fast enough and it had problems when connecting to multiple tables. They wanted to be able to access those custom tables. They had looked at other tools and were told that, all right, you have to send this information up to the cloud. We'll get it added, and it could be days, it could be weeks, there could be cost associated with it. They wanted to control that information themselves. Powerful and flexible. She wanted one tool that could do it all. Here's a report that she decided to create with CyberQuery. She wanted to come up with a way to show the rewards that they had come up with for their customers. So she went out and designed a customer-specific report that was going to track each of those customers' progress and earnings. This report automatically gets created weekly, scheduled again, and sent out to 470 different customers. When talking with those customers, they told her that they were very impressed with the information that they were now receiving, and they couldn't imagine that they didn't have it before. So it's a really good way to share that information regarding that member rewards program. She also came up with a static SX.e pricing report. And the way this works, within SX.e, there's data that gets overridden. So on a monthly basis, she would send out reports from those production reports in SX.e, and she would have those reports be run, output into CSV, and then from those CSV files, she would run CyberQuery against them to convert them into what's called an indexed CyberQuery hold file, or data mart is the industry term. And then by doing that, she was capturing all that data every single month. So she could go back and report against it with CyberQuery at any point in time, even though that data was getting overwritten in SX.e. And the cool thing is she could then tie it back to whatever production data existed in SX.e. So a nice way to get around whenever applications like that overwrite data, so you can go back and look at that information anytime you want. So feedback that we were getting from our different clients with CyberQuery against Infor products, SX.e in particular, is ease of use. So executive, end user, power user, developers, all types of users, once again, can use the product. It's very important to get more adoption. Powerful and flexible. Once again, local access to all data. let's get our data local so we can control it. We're not depending on anyone else. As soon as the data gets entered, we're reporting off of it, and we're reporting off all the information that we're capturing. Performance, once again, the fast queries. So get that information, bring it back. And then security. So cyber query control can be controlled to limit access to site, databases, etc., all the way down to the column level. And then cost. Cost is obviously a big important item. So cyber query, you can get a perpetual license with annual support. You can get an annual subscription as well as a monthly subscription. So we tried to make a way to make it different ways to how you can get into the product. So I'm going to run through content real quick, and then we'll jump into a little quick Q&A. We're about halfway through right now, and then we'll jump into the product. So the way information is distributed within cyber queries, we have something called the Cyber Query Reporting Launchpad. So you can publish reports out into these different areas. Here's some example of different reports. This happens to be a graph giving a forecast, and it's data that's actually coming from Salesforce from the cloud. It's coming from a Sightline database, as well as an Excel file. And cyber query is reading all three at the same time to produce this graph. There's drill downs, so you can click on one of those bar charts and then it goes into, for example, sales booking versus forecast details. Here's an example of an income statement. So as I mentioned, financial statements can all be done within cyber query. For this example, you can go in and you can click on these from the income statement level. You can get all the way down to cost of materials and even down to the general ledger detail. So you can really start finding out what's making up the higher level information. Very powerful with those drills. Invoicing, it's just a report to us in cyber query. So we can create invoicing or invoices, we can put images on there and so forth. So not a problem. Forms, same thing. It's just a different way of creating a report. We have some borders that we can apply, as well as we can support barcodes there. So we can either take a form that's already created and then just add the data, or in this example, the entire form was created within cyber query, lines, barcodes, data, everything. One of the pieces that's included within cyber query is an add-in for Excel. And I'll show you an example of this later. So if a report is developed within cyber query, or multiple reports are, and they're numeric, you can go ahead and put them into Excel with different input fields, add those fields in, hit refresh all, and it will go ahead and refresh all the reports within cyber query, which then allows you to do graphs within Excel off of the data. So for this example, the blue, green, and gray area are 3 different cyber query reports. And then also in the yellow area, you can have Excel formulas too. So that allows you to reference back to the reports that were developed in cyber query. So let cyber query do all the hard crunching of that information and processing of data. And then those who love Excel can still leverage that as well. Okay. Here's an example of a bill of materials with routing. You can see we have different conditional highlighting on rows based off of different qualifications. Here's some other visualizations within cyber query that I'm showing you that you may not see within the demonstration because of time today, just to give you a little different ideas of what can be done within the product. Okay. Here's a SX.e margins dashboard. Here's a rolling 13 months as well for sales gross margin. So you can see different graphs on here, like a little dashboard. All these underlines here you can drill into for more information. Here's a little bit more modern looking one with the different bubble charts and pie to show you that we can do just different examples of visualization again. Mapping, we support mapping. So you can see the bubble charts on here, as well as you can see also we can do heat maps. So lots of different ways to go ahead and show that information. So what comes with cyber query in regards to help with your application? There is a metadata data dictionary manager and toolkit that comes with the product to make it easier for users. What's included within that toolkit is there's a dictionary load process. And when we do that, we load all the tables for that application, as well as the fields, and then we load the joins whenever that's assigned in the database. So the joins in cyber query, we have people either they either load automatically, or we have them put them in the dictionary. So the end user doesn't have to create those relationships among those tables in the query every single time. native and friendly table and field names. That means it's going to be easier to understand those table names that are provided at the dictionary level. If the application's multi-company or multi-database, we can support that as well. Okay. Translation of data types. So let's say you have timestamps or dates that store as a string within the dictionary. We can convert that, and even though it loads as a string into our dictionary, because that's how it's set up at the database level, we can go ahead and convert that in the dictionary so it just shows up as a correct type of data type to the end user. And then of course, technical expertise is part of this toolkit, and that is a report library. It's a template library because we always say that it needs to be customized per user. And then also we do on-site training, which is like the next steps here that we're kind of getting to. Currently it's remote, but soon to be back to on-site. So I think this is the first time right now for a Q&A. Gloria, do we have some questions here that we could discuss?
Yep, I had one question that populated anonymously. The question says,
Great.
can CyberQuery access data from external data sources?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So just to be clear, there's external data sources and there's sources that are within your organization. I'm going to say one, it can access other data sources internally, as I mentioned, but for external, if you have a CSV file, for example, that you're getting off of some website that you want to bring that in, by all means, you can get that CSV file, bring it onto your server, and then you can set up CyberQuery to report off of that. So thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome. That's all we have right now. I'm going to let you, I think next step is to deep dive into your demo.
Perfect. Let's jump in there.
Thanks, Brad.
So here's an example of Launchpad I mentioned to you earlier. So how is this information distributed? So you can see it's all browser-based. I'm going to go ahead and click on sales for this example. You'll see that there's different reports that have been published out here for my sales area. You see this Allen report. This looks like Allen developed it. Let me create this. This looks like a purchased list report, and we're going to build a report like this a little bit later. You can see it has different fields from the SX.e database, things like the unit cost and inventory on hand out to extended cost. So a detailed type report that you can filter and drill from later. Let me go ahead and show example of the Excel add-in bit. So within the Excel add-in piece here, these different gray boxes are the parameters, and you'd enter data into there, and then the green and blue boxes down here, as well as the gray boxes, are reports that are coming from CyberQuery, and then the graphs and the yellow area right here happen to be Excel formulas that people can access. So let me get out of Excel right now. Because of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this dashboard right here. So this is running through tens of thousands of records. If it's millions of records, we don't care. It just goes ahead and churns through that until the reports are created, and it's going to display the pages for us real quick. So this happens to be a dashboard for sales with drill downs, and you can see I have here accumulated invoices and margins, as well as a 13-month rolling, and then kind of a shortcut to year-to-date invoice and revenues. So let's say, for example, I want to come in here and I want to click on October 2014. I can have multiple links that I want to go ahead and click on. So I want to look at the details for this specific month or for year to date. All I have to do is click on that, and for that year, it will go out, run the report to show me the detail for that information underneath. So you'll see right there, comes through, it's giving me the extended revenue and cost margin, et cetera, for that period of time. I can go and do this collapsible report if there's multiple items that will show that for me, and so forth, and I can drill down into further details if I choose. Okay, so quick, easy way to show information in regards to a dashboard. I can click on these as well if I want to go and say, well, let's look at the details for July. It goes down and it shows me invoice revenue for July. So it's predetermined on these links. So when someone builds the query in CyberQuery, it says, well, what information are we going to go to from here? So it's really nice for that end user who just needs to drill through and click on that information. So how do we develop these reports? Okay, so if I go into CyberQuery HTML, you can see it's browser-based as well. It's going to pull up a wizard for me, and it's saying, okay, so what type of report do I want to create? A list, sum, plot, etc. Well, I'm going to start out with a list report, and I'm going to go ahead and choose this end user viewpoints. Remember, I said we have a way to make this look a little easier. And let's go in here and let's do item. I'm going to choose my item table to start out with. Next, and let's go ahead and grab a few fields on here. Let's do product code, PMT code, now a unit cost. So I'm just double clicking or dragging those on there. I can click through and say sort them here, which I can sort later. I can also filter here, but I'm going to click finish. So quickly you'll see that this shows up for me for the fields that I chose, right? So because of the real estate on my screen, I happen to be working on a laptop. I'm going to move, let's just park my description. So I can always bring that back in if I want to. Let me optimize my width for my item, just having to make a little bit more sense here. Now, I want to actually go find the extended cost. So if I come in here and I do, sorry, not extended costs, let's do quantity on hand. Okay. And I can see that's in item warehouse. So let's drag that over here as well. Okay, just drag it to the right. Now, little key when you're working with the product, make sure you take that filter off or you'll never find the field you want, right? So you'll see that this decimal places don't seem to be right in the dictionary. Now that can be changed, of course. So I can do item properties, decimal places, change this thing to 0, come down, click OK. Instantly gets rid of those decimal places for me. Unit costs, I really only want to show 2 decimals here as well. So go numeric. Item properties, numeric, decimal places, make that 2, click OK. Getting some lag here, there we go. So I want to take this information and find extended costs. That's as easy as control, select the next item, and let's multiply those 2 items together. And there you go, you get a multiplication. And let's say I want to do edit the heading and change it to extended costs. Select it like that. Click OK. Quickly, I have the extended cost there. So I have those fields from my data dictionary over here, right? Let's say I want to do some conditional highlighting. If I want to do that, I can choose my paintbrush. Let's say anything with a unit cost over 1, I want to kind of make it stand out. Okay, so let's do an add value highlight. If it's greater than or equal to $1, let's make this background be green. Click OK. There you go. Anything over $1 is going to be green for me, right? Let's say I only want to show those that are over $1. Well, I can go over here, hit Edit Record Selection Clause, and then add a condition. Come back to my item table and drag my unit costs up here, greater than or equal to, add constant, $1 again, okay, okay. And it shows me that information. Now you see how it's showing some that's not green? Well, it's because by default, my duplicates are suppressed. But if I come into report properties, and I come into layout, specify the duplicates, I can say display all, and there you go. Anytime I want to save this query as I'm dragging fields over, save the inquiry, save the format that has my Cyberscience logo, as well as all the green formatting or the actual static report, I can do it through here. Let me jump and show you what a sum report looks like. This is kind of like a pivot table on steroids, just so you know. That's how we often hear it referred to. So if I click on sales, comes through sales order lines, and I'm going to go ahead and choose my amount. Typing correctly helps. Okay. And let's put the amount over there, get rid of that, change back addresses. I'm going to go to my address table actually. Next. And I'm going to do that by name. Finish. So quickly you can see now I have a summary of all my orders based off of my different vendors. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and filter out and take out some of the larger ones, because I think when we change this into a graph, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if I choose those with my control button, go in and say, don't show those, instantly it gets rid of those. If I want to rank this, I can go in here and say, well, let's do a rank, use the amount, quickly gets rid of it. If I want to go and insert a bullet chart and percentage, that's how easy it is. Undo, gotta love the undo button. It's that easy. If I want to come back in here and let's say I want to choose date and I want to add the actual date in here, I can come in here and just drag it in this quickly. I can put it in the across category, just doing it like that. Really easy way to drag and drop that information, filter out on information, and so forth. For this example, I'm going to park that. I'm going to come in here and let's do a top 5. So let's do an item properties. Let's rank this. Give me just the top 5 of those. Let's suppress the other bit so it doesn't lump everyone together. Quickly, you can see I have a top 5 vendors with sales after removing some of my larger clients. Put this thing into a graph. It's this easy. You click it, convert all the items. There you go. Okay. I could switch this as easily to a pie chart, all different types of charts to look at that information. Let's go back to the sum report. Let's say I want to drill into that information. I can go in and say, well, let's click on here. Let's drill. Let's look at all the items that makes up that order. There you go. That dictionary and those relationships among those tables makes all this possible. Well, let's drill into the orders that that item happened on. There you go. What's going on in the background? Here's the language underneath the cyber query that's producing all of that. It's pretty English-like. For those who know SQL, it's even easier. So anytime, like I said, you can save this and rerun it to get the latest information. Okay. Coming back to our test drive. So once again, I mentioned that if you want to see this on your own data, because that is truly the way to experience this, we offer a free test drive. And that includes up to 16 hours of consultant time to get it installed and go ahead and get you actually seeing this working up against your own data. That includes, like I said, a 30-day evaluation. You'll start getting return before you've spent any money. And then if you do not cancel, the subscription begins on day 31. And then there is training and consulting that is required. The 1 week is required with the product because we feel that it's more effective when people are actually getting trained within the product. So I think we're at the next QA point, Gloria.
Here I come. We have we have a couple of anonymous questions and a couple that were posted. So they're all great questions. Let me take first one that is anonymous. What is included with the license subscription?
So with a license subscription, you would get obviously the base package to CyberQuery, as well as support. And support with our product has to do with people who are in the Denver office, and that is email as well as phone support. So you can call someone up and actually talk to a live person. In addition, with the subscription, you get updates to the modules you purchase. So when a new version comes out, you would get that as well.
Wonderful.
Anything else?
Yes. Heather asks, let me pull this over so it's more in front of me here again too. In the SX.e CSD progress database, it is raw data. Am I understanding correctly that the metadata and data dictionary tools you mentioned earlier put the data together in a ready to use fashion? Is the first question she asks. And she says, for example, in the one order line table that you have to do a lot of additional calculations to get the correct calculations of sales dollars because it is just raw data.
So when we do the data import, it will load the raw data schema, not the copy of the data. Now in CSD, we'll have a copy of the data into the QDBs I mentioned. So by default, you get raw access to that data to do whatever you want with it. Now with the toolkit I mentioned, we have ways to do like calculations. So that calculation just looks like another field to the end user. So it's next time they pull up CyberQuery, you drag that calculation over, you're fine. So the idea is to make it as simple as possible for that end user. One other bit, and I know we're coming up on the end, you can always restructure the data if you choose into a format that makes it even simpler for the end user. And then they just go in and run the report or build the queries off of that. And that can be scheduled to run on an hourly basis within that QDirector scheduler bit. So the key here is you control it. You have access to everything. You can do what you want and what format you want for your end user.
Great. Anthony Jones then goes on to ask, are there advantages of this product over Power B1?
I'm guessing that's Power BI. So
Oops, sorry about that.
No, it's fine. You know, in the BI world, Power BI, you hear a lot about it. That happens to be the Microsoft product. When it comes to production type reporting with Power BI is very visualization focused, whereas CyberQuery can have visualization and those operational production type reports. And we also drill right down into the transactional information without that staging that takes place often with Power BI. So when you're looking for one tool that can do it all, we usually have an edge on that. The company's been around 40 years, so there's a lot that's been put into it over that time. And definitely for production and operational reporting, we're going to have an edge on that for sure.
And so far, I have only one last question. Great answer, by the way, Brad. How long does it take to implement CyberQuery, which of course is on anybody who's working with, you know, an upgrade and add-on API is critical. So how long does it take to actually implement your program?
So when we do our test drive, you know, I mentioned 16 hours is what we include with that. When it is a SX.e environment, so on-premise, that is a 4-hour process typically to get it loaded, the dictionary metadata loaded, and reports being able to be written. So half a day. You're looking at more like 8 hours when it comes down to when we work with clear data and getting the QDBs all set up to make sure that data is located. So you're looking 4 to 8 hours to get it to where you can actually start writing reports. Now, obviously, disclaimer, training is the way you're going to want to have training, obviously, to get the most out of the product, but the product actually works in 4 to 8 hours.
Wow. That's like Mr. McFeely says, speedy delivery from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. One last question. Anthony Jones wants to know, can this product replace MITs?
So I try to be cautious about competitors, obviously, in this space.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, so MITs is something that my understanding is that data is sent up to the cloud and then they organize it and then they give you your information back. I'm not aware of any functionality that they have that we don't have. Ours is, once again, a much different approach. It's to take control of it, have it local, do what you want from it from a reporting standpoint, access to every field, every single custom table, and then access to other data outside of the M4 products too, including CSV and Excel files. So I'll let you guys decide that one.
Very, very diplomatic answer, Brad. We appreciate that.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions that have populated just now. So if somebody wants to reach out to you for more in-depth product knowledge, has additional questions, what's the best way for them to reach you, Brad?
You know, they can reach out to me here by email me is probably the best way, but you can always call me as well.
Wonderful. And for those of you that might not have your screen on, it's bjackson@us.cyberscience.com, or his digits for a direct line call are area code 303-745-3900, extension 6117. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up with everyone. And first of all, a warm welcome to you, Brad, again, as being one of our newest sponsors. We're delighted to have you with us. And thank you so much for all of your rich content today, and to every single one of you who not only joined, but stuck through the very end here today. TUG members, just a quick reminder, if you still have additional questions, please feel free to jump on our community member only boards and continue the dialogue and discussion. Brad, make sure that you jump on and grab onto SX.e and CSD Web UI groups so that you can stay abreast of all the content. Also, mark your calendars and watch your inbox for the latest updates for TUG Connects 2021. We're going to launch our all virtual conference on May 10th that's going to run. So you on our content 90 days post-event. The agenda will be uploaded very, very, very soon, and registration is open, and early bird rate is open to the end of this month. So for those of you who have not yet joined and become members, I always say, why not? Not only is the conference great and you'll be able to receive your member rates, but also the price of admission alone, many say, is worth it for the peer-to-peer learning and the sponsors that share insights on how to get the most out of your Infor ERP that you're on. So without any further ado, I'm going to wrap this up in a nice little bow. Brad, thank you again. And as they say in Hollywood, folks, that's a wrap.